Hey, this is Ron, and I wanted to talk about this cup a little bit because I was really excited with this whole pot when it came out of the kiln yesterday, and there are some new little things happening on this pot that sort of moved it in a new direction, and I just thought I would point those out and maybe talk a little bit about them. You may remember last week on the blog I talked about a guy whose work I found on the internet, and for simplicity's sake, and so I don't butcher his name, I'm going to call him John Peters, and there's a link to his website that I will put here also. And his pots were just really interesting to me, and they sort of inspired me to try some new things. And I guess one of the first things that I tried was this different handle. Most of my handles are a bit of a strap shape. I'll show you a little bit of a contrast here. Most of my handles are sort of this thin, thick, thin shape and flat, a bit flat, and then the attachment points are very distinct. This is my typical handle here. And this handle is a bit more of a round handle, although I did make sure to flatten this interior bit here on the inside so that it won't just tip around in your fingers. It's a one finger cup, not a two finger, and it fits really nicely, and I like the feel of it, and I like the way I brought the handle off the pot a little farther. It could have been a little closer, but if you've got something hot in here, then it makes your finger hot. So I brought it off the pot a little bit, and it feels really good. It handles this shape well. Another thing about the shape is that this cup is a little shorter and wider than I normally make, and I've been using this cup for a couple times now, and I'm really enjoying it. I feel like it feels good in my hand, and it works well with this handle. So it's just the shape's different for one thing, and the handle is different for another thing. So that's the first part. The other thing, and I mentioned this in another blog post, was that I had watched a video by George Macaulay, who is an American potter and is primarily in Montana, but he also has been in Georgia before. And George talked about numbering some of his jars. When he made the jars and the lids, sometimes he would just write the number on there. And I just thought that was kind of fun and smart, and I just decided that day when I was making these pots that I would just number them. And I made 3 cups that day, and this was the third one, and so I just casually drew a number 3 on there with my with a stick there right at the potter's wheel. So so this is a new element to the pot, and a lot of times my pots are drawn on the portraits or the images of the animals or the flowers will be on one side, and then the other side is often left plain. In this case I did have this band that ran all the way around, but often this decoration will not run all the way around. So so I think this is a neat thing that I could maybe start playing around with, are these numbers that are just incised directly on the pot. It's a different kind of mark than my sgraffito, which is usually a fine line. This is sort of a very direct, kind of a crude mark with sort of a sharp stick, and this amber glaze really looks nice when it pulls up in there a bit. So that was a nice feature on this cup too. So I mean, I could even see putting a little group of numbers here just as a decorative element. Maybe not that I would make that many cups, but you know, I could put a little block of numbers there as a decorative element. Another thing that was inspired by John Peters was just some mark making that he does, and I can't remember right off the top of my head if he did any just punching or tearing or cutting into the clay, but there was something about the way he put marks on pots that made me think that I could do a little something extra. And so I went around while this pot was still soft and punched these little indentations around the foot of the cup. And they're not really evenly spaced or anything like that. This one's got two quite close together. And I just used the tip of a chopstick to point those in there. And again, the slip breaks around those a little bit, and the glaze. So I could see me doing this on other pots in different places, maybe, you know, even in this area or around the bottoms or tops or vertically. You know, this is just a whole new little tactile type element that reacts with the slip and the glaze and is interesting visually. So that's pretty neat and kind of exciting. The other thing about this pot, and there's another pot too that may be a little more of an example, is that this one's not as evident as in another pot, which I may show in another video, but I'm working on softening this curve here and not having quite such an angle here. So I'll show you that on another pot. But you'll also see possibly that I really punched in the bottom here. See, there's a there's sort of a, see that space? This bottom isn't flat. There's a concave bit here. So that's kind of interesting. It feels neat in the hand. And also I noticed today when I was stirring up my tea with my sugar and my milk that the spoon sort of moved over that space in there in an interesting way. You know, it brought my attention to that hump in there. It wasn't just a flat bottom. So that was kind of neat and unexpected. So anyway, those are just a few things about this cup, and I'll probably make some more cups that are sort of take these elements and put them in some new work cups and probably some other pots too. But I just wanted to talk about this a little bit, and I may make a shorter video of a couple other pots that came out that have some new elements in them also. Alright. So that's it for now, and thanks for your patience and for watching, and we'll see where this goes. I think it's pretty cool. Okay. Over and out.